Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tiger Tank 12. However you call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to Advent Calendar Day 15. Unfortunately, this is like the third or fourth time I'm trying to do that. Every single time someone calls me or something is going on, so in the background there's noise. So I have to do it again. But hopefully this time around it works out. So, how do you get the CS52 Liz? This is the Polish Tier 8 Premium Medium Tank, the only one in the game so far, and it costs you 7,000 gold. And quick disclaimer before we go into anything, I can already say it's totally worth it. You don't even have to watch the rest of the video to be fair, but it's really worth it. This is a tank that is a lot of fun. This is a tank that kind of combines the Western idea of having a very good gun with the idea of survivability of the Eastern Bloc. So it's kind of a hybrid, in my opinion. It's also a tank that probably never existed, and I like to call it the Polish T-54. Now, obviously, a T-54 legendary vehicle. It's not just as good as the T-54, but it's very, very close to it. So let's take a look. What makes this tank so special, or what are the strong suits and what are the weaknesses of the vehicle? You get a 320 alpha damage dealing gun, which for tier 8 medium tanks is a very, very large number. Used to be very, very large. I think up until the introduction of several tier 8 vehicles with 122 millimeter guns, I think the 320 alpha area used to be prior a very few years ago. No, a lot of years ago, the tier 8 heavy tank damage. So yeah, things have changed. This tank has 320 alpha. That's really good. I think for the medium tanks nowadays at tier 8, it's definitely above average. There are still tanks running around with 240 alpha damage, and that is definitely no longer the meta that we have in this game. So the pen that you have with the AP shells is also very, very nice. 208 millimeters is going to be more than enough to go through a lot of tier 8 vehicles. If you need APCR or premium shells, you have 252 millimeters of penetration. But keep in mind, you only have 35 rounds. With the DPM that you have, you will run out of shells in a game that goes very long, and if you fire at everything. Now, 35 shells is something that is close to critical, because anything that is 30 shells, at least with a very high fire rate of fire, you will run out of ammo. But with this tank, I think because of the rate of fire, which is not the greatest, 7.6 rounds per minute, also because of the equipment I'm using, you can actually, you most of the time do not run out of ammo. But I had games where I had to resort to APCR ammunition because I fired all my standard rounds. You also have a very good gun traverse, or very good turret traverse of 47.09 degrees per second, also because of the equipment and the skills, which is very, very nice. So your turret will always be directed towards someone, especially since you also have armor that gives you a little bit of an edge. Better than the Centurion, definitely. 7 degrees of gun depression, on the other hand, is worse than a lot of the tier 8 medium tanks nowadays. So 7 degrees you'll have to work with, but it's not the worst. It's not as bad as 5 degrees, so definitely you can work with that. Then once more, aim time, dispersion, DPM. DPM and I would say the aim time and dispersion on this vehicle are really good. You don't need the equipment that I'm using down here. I just used the equipment because that's what I had lying around when I bought this tank. You really don't need the gun laying drive class 1. The ventilation is always nice to have, but I would probably put a turbocharger in that slot, take that out, put the vents in there, and I would keep the gun rammer because I like to do more damage if possible and decrease that reload time. So yeah, 2,433 average damage. That is very nice. That is definitely, I think, in the medium area for tier 8 mediums, like in the upper medium area probably, because you can work with that. Those are numbers you can work with. That is why this tank has like the distinction that it's kind of a hybrid, because it has the American or German or Western gun reliability with the armor protection of the Soviet bloc. Now let's take a look at the armor. You have 1,300 hit points on this vehicle, which is very much like the Soviet vehicles. You have 80 millimeters of armor on the hull, 75 on the side, and 45 on the rear. Now, the 75 on the side is very, very thick for a medium tank at tier 8, and the 80 millimeters at the front is nothing to write home about. It's not that impressive, but the angling is very impressive. So 80 millimeters definitely all of a sudden become like 130, 40 millimeters thick. Most of the time, tanks that have enough pen will not have to worry about the upper plate, but if you have an angle, if you are somewhere on a little bit of a ridge line, you will be able to probably bounce a couple of shots on that upper plate, and it's not as bad as some other vehicles. I think the angling is done very nicely on this tank. Let's talk about the turret. The turret at the front, 190 millimeters thick, very nice. 110 on the side, 90 on the rear. 190 millimeters does not guarantee you to bounce everything. You also have two cupolas on top, which are, they're not extremely prominent, but you can hit them. The thing is, the flat parts right next to the gun mantlet, they are actually not too flat. It's quite difficult to go right through there. 190 millimeters thickness, though, is not extremely thick. For Soviet medium tanks, at least. They are more rounded than this one. So there's a probability that people will be able to go through your cheeks if they fire very high penetrating rounds. I'm saying standard rounds for tier 8, tier 9 tank destroyers. I'm saying premium rounds for mediums and heavy tanks. But still, the armor itself is going to hold up fairly nicely if you know what you're doing and if you utilize the strengths, which is just showing your turret in this case. Now, obviously, you don't have the best gun depression, so you'll have to find a spot where you can do a bit of work. Talking about mobility, on the other hand, this tank is not too heavy, 38 tons, but you only have 50. Now, definitely, we have to be a bit critical because we have kind of gotten way over the top with premium tanks that have like speeds of 60 kilometers at tier 8. 50 kilometers per hour, is really, really decent. You can up that by 5 kilometers if you use the turbocharger as well. So you can definitely get 55 kilometers out of it and even more engine power. So you'd get maybe 21 specific power to weight ratio. This tank is not the slowest. It doesn't accelerate extremely slow. So this tank can get you from point A to B fairly quick, and it has a very good traverse speed as well, 45.99, considering it has quite a bit of survivability, quite a bit of protection. Now, if you look at the concealment, on the other hand, this tank is rather long. It's not very tall. Concealment isn't too bad, 529 with the right crew and with ventilations. You can probably get that even higher if you utilize like premium consumables, if you get like directives in there. But yeah, this tank is not too bad hidden either. One of the downsides, though, is it only has 380 meters view range. Now, if we compare that to the vehicle that we have checked yesterday with the 400, which is the Centurion, you're in bad luck. So maybe optics are a good little addition. Take away the gun laying drive or the gun rammer if you don't care about that, and get like a turbo, get like optics on it, and maybe ventilations. Now, I think that concludes all of the things that you need to know about this tank. I haven't played it in a couple of days now. What you can also do is you can get the dispersion even more down with the right field modifications right here, and you can also get like an additional minus penalty when you get hit by artillery or anything like that, because your gun traverse is already pretty damn good. And in the end, if you reach stage 6, you can get a survivability or a scouting tab, so it really would give you a bit of a benefit, or it would benefit you if you use the optics in that second slot. So definitely, this is a very good tank. I really like it. This vehicle is really worth it. 7,000 gold. It plays like a Soviet tank, but it has that really nice gun that does decent damage, and that is more than enough reliable for you to take on targets that you need to take out. So hopefully I could help you out with this one. As always, I see you guys tomorrow, and have a good one.